All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Thursday, everybody. I hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. Round 2 coverage of the NBA playoffs here at Hoops Tonight is brought to you by Chase Freedom Unlimited. How do you cash back? All right, series preview time. We're going to be hitting the Knicks and the Heat, a very unexpected second round matchup. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to the Volume's YouTube channel so you don't miss any more of our videos. Follow me on Twitter at _JasonLT so you guys don't miss any show announcements as well as any video content that I put out. And last but not least, if for whatever reason you guys miss one of these videos and you can't get back over to YouTube to finish, don't forget you can find them wherever you get your podcasts under Hoops Tonight. All right, let's talk some basketball. So, series notes. You guys know the drill. I'm going to go over some kind of surface level notes. Going to go through some key matchups. I'm going to make my pick. Then I'll let you guys know the case for the other team to win. So the Knicks are a pretty substantial favorite in Vegas, minus 158. The Knicks won the season series 3-1. And we actually have quite a bit of useful film. All 4 of the games were after the beginning of February. 3 of the games were after the trade deadline in March, when we had most of the usual players, and just about everybody important played in every single game. The Knicks actually won a game without Jalen Brunson at one point. The biggest question mark for me coming into this series is I'm having a really hard time figuring out how much of that Heat-Bucks series was good Heat versus bad Bucks. Here's the thing. Jimmy Butler was incredible. We're going to talk about him more later on, but I thought he was by far the best player in the entire NBA in the first round. So that's obviously a very unique situation that we find ourselves in at this point. A lot of other guys for the Heat stepped up, especially on the defensive end of the floor. Eric Spoelstra is a magician. All of that stuff. But here's the thing. Mike Budenholzer made 0 adjustments to help handle the Jimmy problem. He ran drop coverage all series long. Kept Drew Holiday on him for the vast majority of the series. He refused to double team him. A lot of things that I expect Tom Thibodeau to do at various points during the series. Also, the late game offense in particular for the Bucks was beyond atrocious. To give you an idea, the Bucks had a fourth quarter offensive rating in the series of 88, which was dead last out of any team that played in the first round. In clutch situations, so when the game was within 5 with 5 or fewer minutes remaining, the offensive rating for the Bucks was 77, which is beyond atrocious. It's the second worst mark out of any team in the first round behind the Brooklyn Nets. The other thing, too, how much of what Jimmy Butler was doing is sustainable, just from a shot-making standpoint? So, for example, Jimmy Butler shot 57% in effective field goal percentage, so just field goal percentage weighted for threes. He shot 57% in effective field goal percentage on pull-up jumpers against the Bucks. He shot 45% in effective field goal percentage on pull-up jump shots in the entire regular season. He also shot 44% in effective field goal percentage on pull-up jumpers in the entire postseason last year, when he was also the same incredible Jimmy Butler that dragged his team to within 1 shot of the NBA Finals. So there was some uncharacteristic hot shooting. I think a big part of that was the drop coverage that Milwaukee was running all series long, which is explicitly beat by pull-up jump shooting. Also, just in general for Miami, it's been a shit show all year, and they struggled mightily coming into this series. For instance, Miami was 12-13 in their final 25 games of the regular season. And by the way, you know how the Lakers beat everybody down the stretch because they were desperately fighting for play-in position? So was Miami. Miami's desperate basketball down the stretch of the season was sub 500. And in the play-in tournament, they got smacked on their home floor by the Atlanta Hawks. And they were trailing by 3 points with 3 minutes left against the Chicago Bulls in the Friday game and managed to come back and win. So how can we predict anything for this Miami Heat team when they've been one of the most disappointing teams in the entire NBA this season, and everything surrounding that Milwaukee Bucks series has been disappointing? Now, to be clear, inside of that Milwaukee Bucks series, they were incredible. And I want to be clear, it's for everything that the Bucks did bad, there was also a lot of good Miami Heat there. Jimmy Butler, for as bad as the defensive coverages were, he also was just incredible and made a lot of extremely difficult shots. So like I want to be clear, like, because I like this Miami Heat team. You guys know that. I frequently pick them as a dark horse. I wanted them to play the Bucks in the first round because I knew they'd give them a better fight. I know they're not one of the most popular teams in the NBA, but they're a team that I believe in. They're the Warriors of the Eastern Conference with less talent. They have a star that I trust and a system and a coaching staff and a front office that I trust. I'm a huge Heat fan. But this is just a really, really bizarre set of circumstances that makes it really difficult for me to predict anything in this series. But let's try. Let's take a look at the basketball. So there's 3 key matchups that I want to focus in on. First of all, can the Knicks guard Jimmy Butler? He's the head of the snake. I know there were a bunch of guys who kind of randomly stepped up at various points in the series. One night it might have been Kyle Lowry. Game 5, it was Gabe Vincent hitting pull-up jump shots from everywhere on the floor. But the reality is none of those guys are going to consistently produce. The one guy that is the consistent shot creator that the Heat have is Jimmy Butler. So if the Knicks can slow down Jimmy, I believe they will win the series. End of story. Now, all season long, they guarded him with Quentin Grimes for the most part. Jimmy averaged 23, 5, and 6 on 49% from the field in his matchups with the Knicks. Shot really well from 3, but on extraordinarily low volume. I think he took 4 threes total in the entire season versus the Knicks in 4 games. That's pretty in line with his regular season stats. He was about 23 points per game. A little bit more efficient during the regular season. He was about 53% from the field, only 49% against the Knicks, so they held him slightly below his normal level of efficiency. The big thing for the Knicks is going to be mixing up coverages. Again, like when you're going against a truly great player, they're going to make shots, they're going to make plays, they're going to put up numbers, but the best you can do is just make them work and make it more difficult for them. So a couple things. I would have, if I was the coach of the Knicks, my entire focus defensively would be on Jimmy Butler's rhythm and how he's feeling. And any time I saw him string together 2 or 3 consecutive good plays, I would switch up the coverage on him and just constantly try to keep him on his toes, especially given a situation like this where he's really the only guy you have to worry about. So, for instance, I would start with Quentin Grimes, and I'd run drop coverage with Mitchell Robinson, just like the Bucks did with Brook Lopez. But I would switch everything else that's non-Mitchell Robinson, and then I'd load up on his ISOs and post-ups. But if he starts to make a couple shots against the drop coverage, then I'd start to go to Mitchell Robinson and I'd be like, on this possession, blitz. On the next possession, come up high to the level of the screen and contest in case there's a pull-up, and then drop back into your drop coverage. Just constantly keep him off balance with different coverages. If in the switching system, he starts to attack the smaller Knicks guards, double him randomly, random times. Hard double on the catch one possession. Then just don't double in the next possession. Then double him when he puts the ball on the floor on the following possession. Double him when he turns his back. Randomly mix in those coverages to try to keep him off balance. Another guy I'd like to see them try on Jimmy Butler as much as possible in this series is Josh Hart. I really like it when he guards more physical wings. He always moves his feet well, keeps his body in between the guy he's guarding in the rim, and generally forces guys to shoot over the top. And most importantly, the Knicks need to keep him off the foul line. There were 2 games in particular in Miami where Jimmy scored really well. I think he had 35 in one and like 33 in the other. Shot a million free throws. I want to say he shot 34 free throws combined in those 2 games. So obviously they need to keep him off the foul line. But the reality is, from the Miami situation, like, no player that I watched in the first round looked nearly as good as Jimmy Butler. So, I mean, I was talking last night about the best player in the world conversation and how, like, it's vacant for me. And I actually want to correct that. I think Steph Curry deserves that title as the defending finals MVP. That was just my oversight last night. But I do think it's up in the air this year. And I think I've listed off a bunch of guys that are near the top of the league, and listed off like 8 to 10 names. And really, if any of those guys win finals MVP, I think they deserve to be called the best player in the world. And Jimmy Butler is very much in the running for that, especially if he keeps playing the way that he's playing. So here's the thing. If Jimmy Butler's just randomly elevating into the best player in the world conversation, then guess what? That changes fundamentally the way we have to look at this team. But somebody for the Heat other than Jimmy Butler is going to have to get to the point where they can produce offensively consistently. Like it was Gabe Vincent and Gabe 5. The problem is it's either got to be one of the guards or it's got to be Bam. And For years, I've been begging Bam Adebayo to be more aggressive offensively. I think that ship has sailed. I don't know if that's a step he's ever going to take. I always talk about how with scoring, there's two different parts to scoring. There's skill set, but skill set and athleticism, like what you can tangibly do as a scorer. But then the other half of it is all mental. It's like creativity and audacity, being willing to try things that are different than what you do in drills, and just having the insane confidence to think that you can score at any point in time. And Bam Adebayo just simply lacks in those areas. He's got everything else. He's got outrageous physical tools, great touch, can handle, can shoot, all those things. Doesn't matter because he just doesn't have the audacity and doesn't have the creativity. So you're not going to get consistent high-level offensive production from Bam Adebayo. And the problem is the strength of the Knicks defense is their guards. So as much as I would like to see someone like Kyle Lowry or Gabe Vincent get going, the truth is the Knicks are kind of equipped to handle mid-level guards in the NBA right now. Second big matchup I'm going to be keeping an eye on. Can the Miami Heat keep the Knicks off the glass? The Knicks have 5 players this season who averaged at least 1.8 offensive rebounds per game, which is what made them one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league this year. In 3 of their 4 matchups this year, the Knicks destroyed the Heat on the glass. And the one game out of the 4 that the Knicks actually lost the battle on the glass to the Heat, the Knicks won. That was the Julius Randle game winner game. So the one time they contended on the glass, they still lost. So again, now they held up pretty well against the Bucks, who are a very big team, but the Bucks don't crash the offensive glass very much. They're a get back and transition type of team, so they were only 14th in offensive rebounding this year. Not the same type of matchup. I know physically they're a similar type of matchup to this Knicks team, but the Knicks team relentlessly attacks the offensive glass, especially from the guards. So something to keep an eye on. That's going to be a huge swing factor in this series. It's just how well Miami competes on the glass. Last but not least, can the Knicks consistently beat the Heat on switches? One of my favorite things about this Knicks team is versatility. One of the big reasons why I picked them over the Cavs is the Cavs cannot score in any other way other than pick and roll. And so the Knicks were able to load up on pick and roll, ignore their off-ball shooters, and the Cavs bigs couldn't beat them on the roll, and they just dominated them, right? Well, the Heat are going to do a lot of switching. But here's the thing. The Knicks can score in a bunch of different ways. They can spam pick and roll with guys like Emmanuel Quickley and Jalen Brunson and play and get solid stuff out of that. But they can also score in isolation. They can score in post-ups. They can score crashing the offensive glass. That supplements and gives them versatility so they can score in different ways against different coverages. If you switch out, it's a bunch of different things, right? Like it's switching and having to attack matchups, but it's also switching leading to rebounding mismatches. And that's how they can score on the offensive glass. And the Heat do a lot of switching, and they also have some limited defenders. Now, to the Heat's credit, they defended really well in that Bucks series, and a lot of their personnel defended above their pay grade. But they do have a lot of guys just strictly from the standpoint of physical tools that are undersized, that aren't fantastic athletes. Those are guys that Brunson and Randle are going to have to attack a lot. Now, here's the kind of like a point of optimism for the Knicks. Jalen Brunson is just flat out ascending before our eyes. He averaged 20 points a game last year in the postseason, averaged 24 in the first round, a 2-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio. Again, for the matchup attacking piece, Jalen Brunson ran 53 post-ups and ISOs and scored 54 points on him in that first-round series against the Cavs, which was a slog of physical basketball. And he was still over a point per possession in post-ups and ISOs, which is outstanding in the postseason. That's good in the regular season, but that's outstanding in the postseason. The biggest swing factor for this particular matchup is going to be Julius Randle. Did some digging last night, asked some people who cover the Knicks about Julius Randle's ankle. Apparently, it appears that it's not as bad as the last one. The problem is he's not going to get a lot of time off, and he could potentially miss games at the beginning of the series. That said, especially at home at MSG, I think the Knicks are capable of winning without him, but it's going to be a lot more difficult. And most importantly, it affected his rhythm. Even in that first-round series against the Cavs, Julius Randle was a shell of himself. Look, he is a streaky shooter who has iffy form. And so streaky shooters with iffy form, they need to be in rhythm to be successful shooting off the dribble. And that was a huge part of Julius Randle's success this year. And so the bummer of all of this is if he has to miss a couple games again, even if he comes back in this series, he could be out of rhythm. I would argue the biggest swing factor in this entire series is going to be that Jimmy Randle matchup. Can Jimmy maintain the level of play that he had in that Bucks series? That seemed to be an anomaly, but we'll see. And can Julius Randle be available and in rhythm in the series? If that swings way towards Miami, Miami can win the series. If it's even or in favor of Julius, I think the Knicks will win the series. As of right now, I'm picking the Knicks to win the series in 6 games. I'm terrified of that pick because of how much I respect Erik Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. But I just think that there was a lot of bad Bucks in that first round series, and there's too much bad heat surrounding that Bucks series to ignore. I think the Knicks have better personnel on both ends of the floor. I think they're going to give them a ton of problems on the glass. I think they're more versatile in the way that they can approach both ends of the floor in terms of adjustments. And I think they're deeper. So I just think they're a better team. So I'm picking the Knicks in 6. The Heat's path to victory is very simple. Like I said, they need Julius Randle to be a shell of himself, and they need Jimmy Butler to maintain his reign of terror on the NBA playoffs. This is going to be a very exciting series. And most importantly, more playoff basketball in MSG, which as basketball fans, we should feel very excited for. This is one of the picks I don't feel super confident in just because of all of the weird factors in play, but I'm going to stick with Knicks in 6 for now. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. We will be back most likely tomorrow with should the Celtics get a win tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with a breakdown of Celtics Sixers. If not, then we'll have a breakdown of the predicament that the Celtics are in heading back home for a Game 7. I appreciate you guys rocking with us, and I'll see you tomorrow.